Chapter 1. The Leftovers. The wind whistled through the bare trees as Ava pulled into the gravel driveway of her grandmother's old farmhouse. The sky was already dimming, though it was only 4:42 p.m. The leftover haze of Thanksgiving still hung in the air. Warm smells of cinnamon, roasted turkey, and pumpkin pie clung to the walls like ghosts. Inside, the house was cozy but quiet. The walls were decorated with faded family portraits, all of them smiling, all of them watching. Ava's friends, Malik, Jenna, and Chris, were already inside, lounging around the dining table, still half full from the Thanksgiving feast the day before. "Look who finally made it," Chris called. "We thought you turned into a turkey and ran off." Ava laughed, brushing snowflakes off her jacket. Traffic was a mess. Every store in town is packed with people fighting over TVs and toasters. "It's Black Friday," Malik grinned, holding up a wishbone. "Time to get what you want, or at least wish for it." They all laughed. Malik handed one end of the brittle bone to Ava. "Let's see who's luckier." They closed their eyes and pulled. Snap. Ava won. "I wish this weekend would never end," she said with a grin. But for a brief second, the lights flickered, and the room temperature seemed to drop. No one said anything, brushing it off as a draft. Jenna stood. "Let's heat up the leftovers. I'm starving again." As they uncovered the dishes from the fridge, a strange silence came over the group. "What the hell?" Jenna muttered. The turkey, once perfectly roasted, was raw again. Pale pink and cold to the touch, the stuffing smelled sour. The cranberry sauce had hardened like old blood. The pumpkin pie was covered in green fuzz like it had aged 10 years overnight. "That's not right," Ava said, shivering. "We just had this last night." Chris took a step back from the table. "Maybe the fridge broke?" "No," Malik said slowly. "Look at the clock." They all turned. 2:13 a.m. "But it's only early evening," Ava whispered. "Right?" Jenna reached for her phone. The screen was black. Everyone's phone was dead. The only light came from the overhead chandelier, now dim and flickering. Suddenly, a creaking sound echoed through the house. Heavy footsteps upstairs. No one else was supposed to be here. They froze. "Grandma's gone for the weekend," Ava whispered. "She went to Florida yesterday. I dropped her at the airport myself." The footsteps continued, deliberate, dragging, moving slowly across the second floor toward the stairs. Chris looked pale. "We're not alone." Chapter 2. The Wishbone. The four friends stared at the ceiling as the footsteps above them creaked across the floorboards. Then they stopped right at the top of the stairs. No one dared breathe. Jenna whispered, "Ava, are you sure your grandma isn't here?" "I swear," Ava replied, clutching her phone even though it was dead. "No one else is supposed to be in this house." Then came the sound of something being dragged across the floor. Slow, scraping, rhythmic. Chris grabbed a fireplace poker and inched toward the staircase, peering up into the shadows. "Hello?" he called. "We're not messing around. We're armed." Silence. Then thump, thump, thump. The dragging sound began again, but this time it was descending the stairs. Chris backed up quickly. "Nope, I don't care if it's Santa Claus in a pilgrim hat. We're getting out of here." He yanked the front door open. Freezing wind slammed them in the face. But it wasn't the wind that made them scream. It was what they saw outside. The sun was up. Ava looked at her watch. Still frozen at 2:13 a.m. But the world outside wasn't morning bright. It was Friday morning again. Snow barely dusted the ground just like yesterday. The town square in the distance had people bustling around with shopping bags. The same red car passed on the road at the exact same moment as the day before. It was like watching a glitching video loop. They stepped outside in stunned silence. "Guys," Malik said softly, holding up his phone. It had powered on. "Look at the date. Friday, November 29th. "But that's yesterday," Jenna said. "It's Black Friday." Again. They rushed back inside, slamming the door. The dragging sound was gone, the house eerily quiet, almost as if the thing upstairs had stepped away. Malik sat down and rubbed his temples. What if it was the wishbone? I joked about a Thanksgiving that never ends, and Ava wished the weekend would never end. "That's ridiculous," Ava snapped, though her voice trembled. "You think a piece of chicken bone cursed us into a time loop?" "Turkey," Chris corrected, nervously pacing. "But seriously, something's wrong. The food's rotten, time is broken, something was in the house, and we're the only ones who notice." Jenna stood by the window, staring out. "It's not just repeating, it's changing." They all looked. Across the street, at the neighbor's house, a figure stood perfectly still in the window. It wore a wide-brimmed black hat and long, tattered clothing. It didn't move, didn't blink, just stared. Then it raised one hand and slowly pointed right at them. Malik backed away. I think that thing came with the loop. The clock struck again, bam. Only this time, something new echoed with it. Faint whispers in the air, like 100 people murmuring blessings in a language they didn't understand. Jenna clutched her chest. We have to break the loop. We have to end the feast. Ava looked at the table. The wishbone sat there, but it was whole again. Unbroken, like they hadn't touched it at all.
Enjoying the video, correct? Make sure to hit that subscribe button, turn on the notification bell. Please leave your feedback, hit like, share the content.
Chapter 3, The Repeater. It was Friday again. Black Friday again. The group wandered around the farmhouse like ghosts trapped in a painting. They didn't speak much. What could they say? Every clock showed 2:13 a.m. before resetting. The food was always rotten. Their phones rebooted, showing November 29th again and again. They had spent what felt like 3 days reliving the same morning, the same moments, the same cold presence in the house. But it wasn't exactly the same. Little things had started to shift. On the second loop, Chris noticed his reflection blink even though he didn't. On the third loop, Jenna's mom called, but her voice was warped and ended in a scream before the phone went dead. And now on the fourth Friday, Ava awoke with scratches on her arms. Deep, angry scratches. Where did those come from? Jenna asked, eyes wide. I don't know, Ava said, breathless. I just woke up and they were there. Outside, the world moved like it was on rails. The same red car drove by. The same mailman dropped the same letters. But this time, the mailman stopped in front of the house. He stared toward the window for a full minute, then slowly lifted his hand and pointed, just like the figure in the window before. Then he vanished. No footsteps. No truck engine. Nothing gone. I'm done, Chris muttered. I'm leaving this town. I don't care if the loop resets, I need to know how far it goes. We can't, Malik said flatly. I tried already, drove 15 miles yesterday. And? The road bent and led me right back to this house. Didn't matter which direction I went. Jenna sat on the couch, hugging a blanket. I think this isn't time. It's punishment. What kind of punishment? Ava asked. The curse. That journal in your grandma's basement, Jenna whispered. We never finished reading it. All I saw was the page that said, break the feast or feast forever. Maybe your grandma knew something. They made their way into the cold, creaky basement. Dust clung to the air like powder. A single bulb swung from the ceiling, casting harsh shadows across old trunks and bookshelves. Malik found the journal on a shelf, wedged between two recipe books. It was leather-bound and cracked with age. He opened it. On the inside cover, scrawled in old ink, it read, "The table must be full. No guest may leave until the host has paid." Chris asked, flipping pages, drawings, diagrams, rituals, pages describing a pilgrim feast and a woman who tried to use Thanksgiving to bring her dead husband back. It all ended with a final passage. Gratitude opens the door, but gluttony chains it shut. Suddenly, the light bulb above them popped. Darkness swallowed the room. Then came the footsteps. Not upstairs. This time, they were in the basement, Ava's. Flashlight flickered. In its dim beam, they saw a shape standing near the wall. Tall, hunched, dressed like a colonial pilgrim, with a face that looked melted, like wax left in the sun. His eyes were solid black. He whispered, "You are the guest now." Malik screamed. They ran back upstairs, slamming the basement door shut behind them. The wood warped and groaned but held. Jenna collapsed on the floor. We didn't start the curse. Why us? Chris pointed at the journal. Maybe someone always has to be caught in it. Maybe we were just the unlucky ones who got invited. Then the dining room table shifted. The plates rearranged themselves, silverware clinked on its own. And right in the center, a new dish appeared. Steaming hot fresh turkey, and beside it, a card written in dripping red ink. Dinner is served. Missing one guest, they were only 3 now. Chapter 4, Grandma's Basement. The card on the table read, "Dinner is served. Missing one guest." Ava stared at it in shock. Malik and Jenna hovered behind her. Chris was gone, no sound. No scream, no blood, just gone. 1 second he was beside them. The next, he'd vanished, like he was never there. "Is this a threat?" Malik asked, reaching for the note, but the moment his fingers touched it, the card burst into flames. No smoke, no ash, just fire, and then nothing. "This is bigger than a curse," Ava whispered. Ava snapped her fingers. "The basement. That thing said we're the guests now. What if my grandma was the host before us?" Malik looked confused. "You think your grandma started this?" "No, but I think she knew it was here. I think she tried to contain it." They crept back to the basement. The door still groaned with a pressure behind it, but when Ava reached for the knob this time, it was cold. Still, the basement was dark and unchanged. But something had shifted. The air was thicker, heavier. Ava spotted a false panel, barely visible unless the light hit it just right. She pushed. It opened into a narrow, hidden room. Inside, candles, dried herbs, jars filled with strange bones, and in the center, a massive yellowed tablecloth pinned to the wall. It was embroidered with faces, human faces. Chris's face was the newest. Jenna let out a sharp sob and backed away. Malik stepped closer, shining his phone flashlight over the tablecloth. There were dozens of faces, men, women, children, all sewed into the fabric like some hellish family portrait. Below them was an inscription: "The table remembers. The feast must never end." Ava found another journal, thinner and older, written in elegant cursive. It was her grandmother's handwriting. "I tried to end it. The pilgrim comes every year, seeking guests for his eternal feast. A bargain once made in sorrow now demands endless gratitude. I fed it once to save your grandfather. I regret everything. Forgive me, Ava. I couldn't undo the curse, but maybe you can." Taped to the final page was a recipe card, aged and stained. "To break the feast, a final offering must be made. The food must be cooked in truth. The dish must be served to the host. Only then can the door be shut." "But what's the final offering?" Malik asked. Jenna picked up a small mirror from the altar. "I think," she said slowly, "it's one of us." Suddenly, the walls groaned again. A voice, not quite human, boomed through the house. "The table is not full." Then a sound like chains sliding across hardwood echoed through the walls. The pilgrim was coming, again.
Enjoying the video, correct? Make sure to hit that subscribe button, turn on the notification bell. Please leave your feedback, hit like, share the content.
Chapter 5, Cranberry Blood. The house shook as the voice echoed. "The table is not full." And then, bang, bang, bang. Something heavy was pounding up the stairs from the basement. Not running, dragging. "Back upstairs," Ava shouted. They scrambled to the second floor into Ava's childhood bedroom. Jenna slammed the door shut and locked it, though they all knew it wouldn't hold if he wanted in. Malik slid the old desk in front of the door. "So we're just supposed to wait to be served like dinner?" Ava pulled the recipe card from her pocket and read it again. "A final offering must be made. The food must be cooked in truth. The dish must be served to the host." She looked up. "I think that means someone has to go willingly. Like, understand what's happening, accept it." "No way," Malik said. "That's suicide." "But if we don't," Jenna said, eyes wide, "we all end up like Chris, sewn into that cloth, trapped." Suddenly, the lights flickered. The doorknob jiggled. Then, it turned. The room fell into pitch darkness. Ava could still hear the slow scraping of metal on wood, as if the pilgrim was dragging a rusted blade along the hallway walls. A low voice breathed through the door. "Who brings the cranberry blood?" Ava clutched her stomach. "What the hell does that mean?" Jenna's eyes widened. In the journal, it said the dish must be served in truth. Cranberries are bitter tart. Real, no sugar. "Truth," Malik said, standing slowly. "The truth is, this whole holiday is built on lies. Maybe this curse feeds on the fake gratitude." The door swung open, but no one was there. Only a trail of dark red liquid leading down the hallway. They followed it. It wasn't blood. It was cranberry sauce. But it had a deeper color, thicker, richer, almost like, "Is that real?" Malik asked. Kneeling, he touched it. A scream ripped through his body, not his. A woman's scream, echoing. Distant, historical. Like it had been buried beneath centuries. He yanked his hand back, shaking. "That sauce is made with a soul," he whispered. Ava's voice cracked. "That's the offering. Not someone's body. Their story, their pain, it's gotta be told. Served as truth." Jenna nodded. "Then we cook." They rushed to the kitchen. The house creaked and moaned, but for now, the pilgrim didn't appear. Ava lit the stove. Jenna pulled out ingredients. Malik found a weathered wooden bowl with symbols carved into the sides. They didn't ask where it came from. They began to cook, not food, memory. Each of them poured their truths into the bowl. Ava whispered about her father's death, how Thanksgiving had been a forced smile every year since. Malik spoke of hiding who he really was just to be accepted at the table. Jenna cried as she confessed wishing to disappear after years of being overlooked, even by her own family. The cranberry sauce bubbled and bled as they spoke. It thickened into something dark and raw, both beautiful and terrible. When it was done, the room fell silent. Then, a plate slid across the counter on its own. The pilgrim was ready. Chapter 6, The Host Arrives. The plate rested on the counter, perfectly white porcelain rimmed in gold. The cranberry sauce inside it shimmered, not like jelly, but like liquid rubies pulsing with a heartbeat. The house fell into a silence so deep it felt like the air itself was holding its breath. Ava swallowed hard. We did it. The offering is ready. But where do we serve it? Malik asked. Who do we give it to? From the hallway, footsteps answered. Slow measured. Heavy. They turned toward the dining room as the chandelier above it began to sway on its own. Candles relit themselves. The rotten food from earlier vanished, replaced by a hot, fresh Thanksgiving meal. Steaming turkey, golden cornbread, and buttered yams. And at the head of the table, a new chair appeared. It was larger than the others. Older colonial style, blackwood, worn down ancient. And in it he sat, the pilgrim. His face was pale as candle wax. His eyes glowed like cinders beneath his wide-brimmed hat. His hands were long and thin, gripping the arms of the chair like a man who had waited centuries to be fed. Ava nearly dropped the plate. Jenna clutched Malik's arm. The pilgrim didn't move. But he spoke, in a voice that seemed to come from every wall at once. You bring truth. Bitter truth, the kind that stains tongues and burns pride. He looked directly at Ava. Do you eat with me? Or do you feed me? Ava stepped forward, trembling. She placed the plate before him on the table. I feed you, she said quietly. But not with lies, with pain. With what's real. The pilgrim slowly dipped one bony finger into the cranberry sauce. He raised it to his mouth. He tasted. The room went still. Then, he smiled. For the first time, he smiled, and it was worse than any scream. His teeth were too many, sharp like needles. His lips cracked and bled. Yes, he rasped, a meal of meaning. A feast of wounds, a course worth remembering. Suddenly, the dining room erupted in screams, not from the three of them, but from the walls. The very wood cried out as if it held trapped voices, dozens, hundreds. Faces began to stretch across the wallpaper, ghostly outlines of past guests, all sewn into the house. All watching, the pilgrim stood towering over them. The table thanks you, but it is not yet full. No, Ava said defiant. We gave you what you wanted. You said we could break the curse. The pilgrim leaned down. I said the feast must end, but did I say you would leave it? He lifted one long hand and pointed to the tablecloth on the wall. The embroidered faces began to shift, new ones forming. Jenna, Malik, and Ava. No! Malik shouted. We broke the cycle! You cracked it, the pilgrim whispered. But it must shatter. Then, something snapped inside Ava. She grabbed the remaining cranberry sauce, raised it high, and threw it into the pilgrim's face. He screamed, not in pain, in fury. The chandelier above exploded. The table caught fire. The portraits in the hall burned with red light. The pilgrim reeled back, clawing at his melting face. Run! Ava screamed. They bolted from the dining room, fire racing behind them, ghostly voices shrieking from the walls. Malik kicked open the front door. For the first time since the nightmare began, sunlight poured in. Not firelight, not flickering loops. Real morning, they ran out into the yard coughing, bleeding, half mad. Behind them, the house began to collapse, like a rotting skeleton finally laid to rest. Ava turned and saw, just for a moment, her grandmother's ghost in the attic window, smiling, peaceful. Then the house was gone. Just ash, just smoke. Silence. They collapsed in the driveway. It was finally Saturday.
Enjoying the video, correct? Make sure to hit that subscribe button, turn on the notification bell. Please leave your feedback, hit like, share the content.
Chapter 7. The Leftovers. The ashes of the house still smoked behind them. The sun had risen. Birds chirped like nothing had ever happened. Cars rolled lazily down the street. Life had resumed except for them. Ava, Malik, and Jenna sat on the curb trembling. Silent, a fire truck passed, never slowing down. It didn't see the ruins. No one saw anything. It's like the house never existed, Jenna whispered. Ava checked her phone. Friday. November 29th, the real one. No repeats, no looping, no pilgrim. They should have felt relief, joy. But Ava felt empty. Not just tired, not just shaken. Something had been carved out of her. They left without speaking, each returning to their homes, to pretend life was normal. 2 days later, Sunday morning, Ava woke to her mom's voice from downstairs. "Honey, come look." The strangest thing showed up on the porch. Ava came down. On the doorstep sat a tinfoil container, still warm. No note, no name. Just a sticky label on the lid, leftovers. Ava opened it slowly. Inside was a slice of turkey, perfectly roasted. Some stuffing, and a single scoop of cranberry sauce. It shimmered just like before. Her mom laughed, oblivious. Someone must have been feeling generous. Ava tried to throw it away, but the lid wouldn't close. No matter how hard she pressed, the foil tore, bent, warped, but the food stayed perfectly intact. She finally shoved it into the trash, buried it beneath eggshells and coffee grinds. But the next morning, it was back on the counter, clean. Warm, fresh. Every time she threw it out, it came back. She called Malik. "Same thing's happening to me," he whispered. But worse. He had opened his fridge that morning to find a full pie, golden brown, steaming hot. When he touched it, it whispered his name. "Mine's a cornbread roll," Jenna said over the phone. "It watches me." They were haunted, not by ghosts, but by leftovers from the table that wouldn't let go. She tried flushing it. It showed up on her nightstand. One night, she dreamed of the pilgrim. He was seated at the head of a new table, in a house of smoke and bone. Her plate was empty. "You fed me," he rasped. "Now I feed you." She woke up vomiting blood-red jelly. But the curse hadn't ended. It had simply spread. The table didn't disappear. It moved. Chapter 8. The Invitation. Wednesday night. 4 days after the house burned, Ava sat on her bed, staring at the cranberry sauce in its cursed container. No matter how many times she tried to ignore it, it always returned, fresh, fragrant, waiting to be eaten. She hadn't slept in 2 days. The sauce pulsed faintly as if it had a heartbeat. Then her phone buzzed, a text. "Unknown number, you're invited. Join us this Friday, a feast of remembrance. Bring your truth," she blinked. Another message came instantly. Location attached. It was just coordinates, no address. She dialed Jenna. "You got the text too?" Jenna asked before Ava could say a word. "And the pie's gone," Malik said, joining the call. "It just vanished. Left a note on my mirror. It said, 'The host remembers who fed him.'" Ava opened the location in maps. Her blood ran cold. It was an abandoned farmhouse 50 miles away. Same exact design as her grandmother's. Same twisted gable, same crooked porch. The pilgrim's house had rebuilt itself. Malik said what none of them wanted to hear. "We started something. That recipe? That offering? It was like opening a gate. Now the feast wants to continue. New guests, new truth." Ava stood, her hands shaking. "We go Friday at sunset. Before the others arrive." "Others?" Jenna asked. Ava held up her phone. She hadn't seen it before. The text had a list attached. Ava Whitmore, Jenna Haynes, Malik Johnson, Daniel F., Grayson Lee, Emily C., Ashley B., Kevin M., Tina R., a guest list. The table wasn't full yet. Friday, 5:45 p.m., they arrived at the new house. It looked brand new, but wrong. Too symmetrical, too still, like a painting trying to mimic life. And cars were already parked outside. Jenna counted them. "There's at least 6 people already here." They knocked once. The door creaked open by itself. Inside, candles were lit. Voices echoed down the hall, laughter. The feast had already begun. They entered the dining room, and there it was, a long table. Different guests now, teenagers, strangers, even a man in a business suit, but they all sat, smiling oddly, eating ravenously. In the center of the table, a tall figure carved the turkey with a rusted knife. "The pilgrim," he looked up. "Saw them and smiled. The ones who first fed me. My cooks, my confessors." He gestured to 3 empty chairs. "Take your place, tell your tale." The others have shared theirs. Emily, a girl near the end, sobbed as she held a plate of green beans. I told him about my sister. What I did? Kevin, the man in the suit, just whispered, I thought it would free me. Ava looked to Jenna, then to Malik. They knew this wasn't just a curse anymore. It was a ritual, a tradition, passed like a virus. Each year, a few more guests. Each meal, a little more truth fed to the darkness. And eventually, the table would grow big enough to feed the world. Chapter 9, Carved in Silence. Ava sat down. The chair felt cold and ancient, like it had waited centuries just for her. Jenna and Malik followed, though every muscle in their bodies screamed to run. The pilgrim placed a slice of turkey on her plate. Thud. A spoonful of stuffing. Thud. A heap of cranberry sauce, shimmering like it did the first night. He leaned close, confess. Across the table, the others had already begun. One by one, guests stood and gave their truth. Some with tears, others in strange, trance-like calm. Emily confessed she let her sister drown. Kevin admitted to embezzling millions from dying patients. Tina whispered she'd poisoned her father's dog and smiled as she said it. Each truth was more brutal than the last, and every time someone finished speaking, the pilgrim carved another slice of meat. He fed them, but none of them looked more satisfied. They looked emptier, like the confession didn't relieve them. It ripped something out. Jenna trembled, her voice barely audible. We shouldn't be here. The pilgrim slammed his knife into the table, wood cracked. The silence will not be served. Then, Malik stood. His hand shook, but his voice was clear. I lied to my brother. I told him to meet me at that bridge, but I knew it was dangerous. I wanted to scare him. He fell. He still can't walk right. And I never told anyone it was my fault. The pilgrim nodded, carved. A hot slice of turkey slid onto Malik's plate. Malik looked like he was going to be sick. The house shifted. Ava heard whispers coming from the walls again, more voices than before. The table remembered Jenna was next. I cheated during my scholarship interview. I stole the questions the night before. Someone else didn't get in because of me. I always told myself I earned it. I didn't. Carved. Another slice. Ava felt it now, deep inside, how the ritual worked. It didn't just want truth, it wanted shame. The kind that sticks to your bones. She looked down at her food. It shimmered with unnatural light. The pilgrim turned to her. Her voice cracked. I abandoned my grandmother. Silence. I stopped visiting her once she got sick. I told people it was too hard. But really, I just didn't want to see her like that. She died alone in that house. And I wasn't there. Tears ran down her face. The room felt like it was holding its breath. The pilgrim nodded once. But instead of slicing more meat, he reached toward her plate and carved it backward, scraping her confession into the food itself. Your sorrow seasons the meal, he rasped. Now eat what you are. She refused. No. The room went deathly quiet. The pilgrim's eyes burned bright red. The food on the table began to rot. Maggots spilled from the bread. Blood poured from the turkey. The other guests screamed, clutching their stomachs. One by one, they collapsed. Only Malik, Jenna, and Ava remained standing. And then the pilgrim leaned down and whispered, You won't eat? Then you'll be carved. The knife in his hand gleamed. The house shuddered. The table began to split open, groaning like a living thing. Something massive and black writhed beneath it. Ava stared into the chasm. She saw herself, younger, crying. Then her grandmother reaching out. Then every face from the embroidered tablecloths, their mouths open in silent screams. And then, the knife came down. Do you want to continue to the final chapter?
Enjoying the video, correct? Make sure to hit that subscribe button, turn on the notification bell. Please leave your feedback, hit like, share the content.
Chapter 10. The Last Thanksgiving. The blade slashed down, but missed. Malik shoved Ava to the ground just in time. The pilgrim's rusted knife buried itself in the back of the wooden chair, splintering it in half. The house groaned louder now. Walls pulsed as if breathing. The long feast table split open completely, revealing a pit of writhing flesh and bones underneath. A terrible mouth made of wood and teeth began chewing the air, trying to consume everything. The pilgrim turned on Malik. His eyes glowed like dying embers. You Oathbreaker, you will nourish the roots. Jenna grabbed a fallen candle and threw it, flames catching the edge of the pilgrim's cloak. It ignited like dry paper. He screeched, not like a man, but like something ancient and hollow. He stumbled backward toward the pit. Ava stood, hand trembling, holding a shard of the broken plate like a knife. She stepped forward. "No more feasts," she whispered. "No more guilt," and she plunged the shard into his chest. Not blood, ashes poured out. The pilgrim collapsed. The table screamed. Everything shook. The house began to collapse. The guest list on the wall caught fire. One by one, the names burned away until only 3 were left. Ava Whitmore, Malik Johnson, Jenna Haynes. "Run!" Jenna screamed. They bolted out as the ground gave way behind them. The porch twisted and splintered, vines and bones cracking through the floorboards. The moment their feet hit the front yard, silence. They turned. The house was gone. Just an empty field. The car's gone, the road silent, as if nothing had ever been there. 1 week later. They never spoke about it again. The cranberry container never came back. The food stopped appearing. The whispers ended. Every year after that, they avoided Thanksgiving. They never hosted, never attended. They didn't even acknowledge it on social media. But one year, on a random Wednesday in November, Ava received a small wax-sealed letter in her mailbox. It simply read, "The table remembers even the leftovers." She burned it without reading more. Somewhere deep in the world, in the places we try to forget, a new table is being carved. And someone new, someone lonely, hungry, full of pain will be invited. Because the curse isn't a ghost, it's a tradition. Passed down with every truth we swallow and every lie we feed. The end. Happy Friday after Thanksgiving.